Welcome to SiGMA TV, and today I am absolutely thrilled to be joined here by Sammut, who is the CEO of BMIT Technologies. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Trudy, for the invite. I'm really happy to be here.
I am so excited to find out about BMIT and also what you've been up to, and of course, big news of things that have been taking place over the last couple of months. But before we get there, can you just explain to me, BMIT Technologies, what do you do?
Sure. So BMIT Technologies are a data center, cloud, and managed services provider. And basically what we do is we take away the burden of the management of IT technologies and infrastructure and systems and services, and try and provide a wrapper of services around them to make it simple for our users to make use of, basically.
So you make the complicated simple.
Exactly that.
You are now my modern day hero.
I am.
Well, before we go any further, of course, I want to ask you, there's a lot of people that provide technology services. So what makes you different from your competition?
Sure. So if I had to look at ourselves in the market locally, we have been around now for more than 15 years. And if I particularly focus on the data center space, we are one of the pioneers of that industry on the island. We actually grew in Malta when online gaming was starting to be regulated as Malta was joining the EU.
Perfect.
So we actually learned and grew as the market also grew. And as time passed, as customer requirements started to change and grow, we too saw that and grew with the industry. And as a result, today, we are by far the largest data center and cloud provider on the island. And we have also managed to nurture relationships with some international partners, players who provide infrastructure and technologies to us, other players who in a way compete with us, but altogether we embrace their technologies and ours and do our best to give our customers the best of choices that are available for them.
Well, now you mentioned the fact that you were around at the beginning of the iGaming industry here in Malta, right as its emergence. Now, when we look at technology and technology platforms, things have changed so much in the last 15 years. So what have you seen as the key points? What have you seen where that change has occurred, and how do you respond to that?
Okay, so first of all, if I had to look at BMIT, we had started off as a co-location data center provider, providing hosting services to customers. And what does that mean? Basically, we have a very secure environment where we keep and host customer equipment and some of our own equipment in a very secure environment. Okay. So basically we provide a secure power connection, we provide a very secure and resilient internet connection, and we keep everything cool. And that is how we started. And we started by offering that to our gaming customers primarily. But over time, as technology started to change, we realized that doing just that alone would not have taken us forward in years. Cloud adoption was starting around 2011 and 10. And in 2012, we decided that, listen, cloud certainly will become a new force in the technology space. And in 2012, we actually launched the first locally based cloud platform on the island. And we did that at a time when cloud, even internationally, was still in a way in its infancy. And even some of the large providers we know today we're still in the process of really pushing forward the agenda for cloud computing in the world as we know it today. So what we have been able to do is, obviously, we have invested a lot in our people. We have kept abreast of technologies as they have been emerging and always tried to develop a complete portfolio of products and services which encompasses the best technologies our customers would use. And obviously, if I had to look at competition that is available locally, other technologies and international competitors as well, I think one of our strongest USPs has been our own customers. Today, we serve some of the smallest customers and operators to some of the world's largest gaming operators. And as they have grown in the market, we have continued to grow with them. And that has allowed us to have the required economies of scale to be able to continue to invest in our people and in our infrastructure and in technology to take us to the next level.
But there's some really good judgments that you took there, particularly concerning the cloud and so on, and the cloud technologies. Because, for instance, I was one of those people that went out and bought a mini disc player.
Okay.
And of course, I invested a lot of money
Sure.
for nothing because, of course, they don't exist anymore. And there's been a lot of, for instance, AOL came and went or emerged into something else. Was it always a certainty with cloud technologies that that was going to happen? Because you mentioned that you saw it and you said, okay, we need to be involved.
The first years were somewhat, let's say, uncertain, especially locally. So if I had to look at cloud adoption in Europe, was accelerating at a much faster pace than that in Malta. But I would say that over the past 3 to 4 years, particularly as the larger providers of such technologies have really refocused their own strategies to cloud, automatically brought the customer with it. And even in Malta, although certain business cultures sort of were not pro-cloud, many local businesses, many local owners tend to like to have their data, their systems, in their office under their desk. So moving that to the cloud was a big challenge, which we saw. So what we tried to do to really promote cloud computing in Malta, we realized that there was a difference from delivering services within the data center. So we were very good at providing co-location and managed services in the data center. But for us to be able to convince customers that we could also deliver a suite of services, and particularly cloud services, in their offices, we had to have a capability to support them there. And in fact, what we did in 2016, we actually acquired a small local systems IT integrator who gave us the capability and the knowledge to be able to serve those customers. And since then, obviously, we have merged the two organizations into one. And as BMIT Technologies today, we are able to offer all our customers anything from the data center to the desktop to the cloud, wrapped in a suite of managed services.
I'm so pleased for you, Chris. I mean, what a success story. But also you mentioned about the skepticism about cloud technologies. And of course, for some of us and some people, those technologies are not really well understood. We're talking about intangible matters.
Sure.
They're a little bit difficult to get their head around. Now, moving on from that into a fairly untangible matter as well, we're talking about AI. And you've got some cracking news about AI and BMIT. Tell me about that and how that is then affecting your business as well.
Sure. So basically, where did our story with AI start? We have been serving the gaming industry since 2005 or 6. And to date, we have a very strong base of customers, from startups to some of the largest operators. And we have always been trying to understand how we could serve them better, how we could increase the range of services and products which we deliver to them. And we actually saw an opportunity of how we can apply some of the new emerging technologies which are available and which customers could then consume and within their own organizations for them to become actually more efficient in their own operations. And if you look at artificial intelligence, research shows that artificial intelligence will certainly be one of the main pillars of our lives and future technologies. Even if you look at the volume of data which IoT and 5G will bring to the market, you require massive platforms which are able to mine that data, but then apply other technologies for businesses to make use of the data and help them take intelligent decisions. So with artificial intelligence, we actually saw an opportunity of bringing this technology to our gaming customers. So we partnered with Ebo.ai, a locally based AI specialist, to deliver their virtual agent, an AI-based virtual agent, to the gaming sector. Ebo have already been successful in the health industry, particularly with the NHS in the UK. And we partnered with them to apply the same technology in the gaming sector. So in last June, we actually launched a product under the BMIT umbrella called CX Virtual Agent. And what this does is it actually helps gaming operators in customer-facing operations. As you can imagine, very common with call centers. handling large volumes of incoming calls.
Yeah, yeah.
You have a lot of repetitive questions being asked. And research shows that approximately 60 to 80% of that is all repetitive in nature. So what CXVA does, it actually takes away the burden of the very repetitive calls. And because of the AI capabilities, it is able to understand emotions. It has a natural language processing capability, and it allows operators to basically react to their customers much more efficiently. And what it does is it allows such gaming operators to reallocate some of their call center staff to more value-adding operations within their own organizations, you know. I think another area which is of interest for some of the customers we are proposing these services to is that as gaming regulation is evolving and developing in different parts of the world,
absolutely,
at different paces, you know, finding personnel to provide customer-facing activities, whether it is in responsible gaming, whether it is on onboarding customers in languages which might be totally new for that organization, can be quite burdensome. You know, finding the appropriate people. You have a lot of churn in call centers. Finding, I don't know, Japanese-speaking.
But not only that, Japanese-speaking who know the regulations and they know the condition. You know? Yes.
So with our CXVA, basically, an organization, an operator who's looking at entering a new market can do that very, very quickly nearly at the flick of a button, because our solution has got already the knowledge of the operation of that particular customer and is able to support multiple languages.
This is incredible. I mean, this really is the stuff of dreams. This is, you know, technology that we could 20 years ago could never ever have anticipated. Now, it's fantastic that you've had this advance in the past year, which of course has been a very difficult year for most people. And we're thrilled, obviously, that gaming has, iGaming, online gaming has been very successful. And of course, as you mentioned, that's a large percentage of your customers. So what has this past year been like for you? I mean, this is taking on board these new technologies and these new opportunities is amazing, but a little bit hairy in the middle of a pandemic.
So basically, as I said, whilst, you know, originally we had started off particularly focused on the gaming sector, over the years that has really changed. And today, half of our customers are actually non-gaming customers. Okay. So today we serve anyone from the financial services sector to the tourism sector to the transportation, all in all size professionals, any type of business. So when the pandemic started early in around March, when the first that really kicked in, sort of the first impact, I think one of the first hits we had was when all sports betting actually stopped all over the world. And as you can imagine, that had quite a significant impact on a number of online gaming operators, basically, particularly those who solely focused on providing sports betting. And yes, we did have some customers who unfortunately were hit to different degrees quite badly with that as a result of the pandemic. At the same time, we did actually have a number of customers who continued to, in a way, take advantage of what happened, because a lot of players actually went online, or continued to play online, and they continued to grow.
Prior to 2020 and to the pandemic, there was only 13 or 14% of gaming was taking place online. And we've yet to see what the statistics are for the past year. But as you mentioned, of course, because of people being constrained at home and not being able to go out and go to their lotto office or go to, a lot of activity has migrated online, but also in so many other sectors. And some of the sectors that you mentioned, for instance, tourism, of course, has been hit very badly. But sectors that did not anticipate having such a strong presence online have migrated.
In fact, another impact which we had to cater for was that when the pandemic hit the island, some local businesses whom we serve, as I said, 50% of our customers are local businesses from different parts. Some of them were already set up, already using some cloud services and making use of a variety of online services. But there were many others who were not prepared for that migration to online. And as offices started to shut down and people had to work from home, basically, that created a flourish of activities in terms of us working with them, helping them migrate to working from home. In fact, we took to market a number of solutions in that particular space and helping them migrate some of their systems from maybe standalone servers and systems sitting in their offices to basically others hosted within our data center or on the cloud. So we saw that flourish of activity, certainly in the first few months. It then slowed down as organizations, as the pandemic continued to continue over summer, but then it started to pick up again, I would say, in the third or fourth quarter. So overall for us, I cannot say that we have not been hit like everyone else, but I think it's been mixed. In some sectors, some of our customers, unfortunately, have had an impact as a result of it. But many others have continued to grow with us. And we have been lucky that we are in a space which I would say overall has benefited from the pandemic in respect of the online activity, the increase and volume in that particular space, which creates a demand for operators like us and other service providers.
Well, I think you're being modest because you've actually taken the opportunity to grow. And there's some businesses and some industries that have seen this opportunity over the past year and have been able to move forward. And I'm thrilled, genuinely thrilled for you. Chris, what is the next year and the next months and beyond looking like for you and for BMIT Technologies?
So, yes, I mean, I can't say that this year was not a tough year, but it was also a good one for us. As I said, we have continued to invest in our infrastructure, in our technology, in our people. We have also acquired a stake in EBO, and we just completed that just a few weeks ago. But at the same time, we have had a very successful history, and looking forward, it is how we can now take BMIT Technologies to the next level. We operate in a small island in the middle of the Mediterranean, which has its own limitations. We serve a much larger audience, which has no boundaries to an extent. So where we are seeing ourselves in the future is how we can extend the suite of products and services like we have done with CXVA to the gaming space, how maybe we can serve other sectors in Malta, but even outside of Malta. So we are actually looking at how we can expand our footprint, potentially even in other territories, and looking at even as regulatory developments happen in different sectors, in the financial services and in gaming, of how we too can adapt to those changes and basically serve our customers wherever they may need.
Chris, going back to an earlier question, which was about technologies, the technologies that emerge, that some that survive, thrive, and take us forward, some die along the way. Is it clear? You obviously, BMIT Technologies has seen a clear path and has always been there at the forefront of technology and embraced it as it emerged. Is it a clear path ahead of us, particularly in respect of the pandemic and the change of online behavior? Is it a clear path, or is it a task for you now to stay constantly ahead of the game?
No, I think it's actually a bit of both. There are some technologies like AI, like IoT, and others, which for sure will continue to be very much present everywhere. But I think that our plans moving forward are really dependent on recovery post-pandemic. It is how fast and when will economies start to recover, which businesses may die, unfortunately, which businesses may flourish, which businesses may completely reinvent themselves. And it is looking at, some of the existing technologies, but even maybe some new technologies which might emerge, which might take advantage of some of the lessons learned as a result of the pandemic and come up with solutions to serve the new economies which we will be seeing develop in the future. So our job really is continuing to do what we do and try and do it better using some of the technologies we use today, but also look at some of the changes and developments which will happen. And we do a lot of that on a continuous basis within the organization, and be ready, possibly slightly ahead, in terms of any decisions we take, any investments we take, so that we are ready to then take advantage of any opportunities which might arise.
Chris, I'm thrilled for you. I'm thrilled for the success that you've had over the past year, but also for the very clear vision that you have for the future. Thank you so much for being here with us at SiGMA TV, and looking forward to finding out how 2021 treats you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the invite, and looking forward to talking again.